Hey, Kato.
Yeah.
You hear this, bro?
Yeah.
That's a hell of a question to start with. I'm just, more than anything, grateful that we were able to make this film at this time. It's a very complicated film, and I think a lot of things come into play when it comes to bringing Wakanda to the big screen. We're at the stage now where advancements in visual effects and shooting styles enable you to realize something as crazy as Wakanda is, building the whole country in the heart of Africa. And I think that we're at a time, socially and culturally, where people are hungry for the, for the content, and hungry for a story like this. Honestly, I think any time will be the right time for it. I think now more than ever, audiences know what comic book movies look like, know what they feel like, and I think it's a great time to see this character's story.
What happens now determines what happens to the rest of the world.
For me, it was just about his humanity. The superhero aspect of a superhero is the thing that people aspire to, but it's hard to identify with. So just trying to figure out who he was, because of the conflict that's initiated in Civil War, you already see him make this sort of altruistic shift. And how does that transfer into this movie was my real question. Most things centered around that. And then in terms of the external aspects, what he sounds like, looks like, it was a lot of exercise, whether it be vocally or physically. It was a routine. It was suffocating. Because literally it closes off every possibility of air getting to you. Like, there was no way to breathe. Like, I was in it with the mask on, and the air that I had in the mask, got to the point where I was about to run out. And I said, hey, you gotta get me out of this, because you didn't think about a way for us to breathe. It was some work that needed to be done. It was suffocating. I think it begins to feel like skin after a while, like a second body, second skin that you have on.
This film was a blessing for me because when I realized that I wanted to become a filmmaker, I knew I wanted to make movies that were personal and tell stories that I feel like I could tell the best, using the things that made me unique as a person. But I also grew up with a healthy love of pop culture, like any kid that was born in the 80s, came up in the 90s. I love video games, love comic books, love the comic book cartoons. And I always had an aching for characters that looked like me. And not just one character, but for worlds that looked like my world growing up in the East Bay area. And you love Spider-Man, you love X-Men, you love everything the same, but you do long to buy a toy who looks like you, who looks like your family, who looks like your friends. And so for me as a filmmaker, this film was a gift. And hopefully, when we show the film to the world, we'll be able to see some kids that came up that was like us, getting access to something that we never had. And for me specifically, to see the hashtag Black Panther so lit and to see folks excited was incredibly motivating, because when you're on a film this long, you can run out of gas, you know what I mean? You live in it with it, and you say, man, do people even want to see this? Are people even interested? But to be reminded to check in with folks, and see how excited they are. It's nerve-wracking and scary because you don't want to let them down, but it's also incredibly motivating.
Which one?
Do the latest ones look more like you?
Well, you got to tell me which one. I've seen a couple of them I can say, yeah, I like that one. And I've seen some prototypes that look more like me that maybe haven't even come out yet. So I would say it's promising. It's promising. It's getting better and better. Every week is a little bit different, a little bit more intense. Also because the excitement is building right now. You can't really go anywhere without somebody saying, I can't wait for your movie, which is a great feeling. So even if it becomes a little awkward or uncomfortable at times when you're doing everyday stuff, you still appreciate it at the end of the day. It's a beautiful moment.
I know our cinematographer, Rachel Morrison, did a beautiful film called Mudbound, and I was so proud of her and Dee Reese, everybody who was involved with that. But I can't say a favorite movie because I don't feel like I saw enough, but I think collectively we so proud of Rachel, man.
Yeah.
You know.
And proud of Daniel too with Get Out.
Oh my God, yeah.
It's definitely one of the most culturally impactful movies that we've seen in a long time.
Yeah. So Get Out is one of those movies when it feels like it's always been out. It feel like if once you see it, it feel like it's always existed. It was that good.
We went and watched it as a cast, so it fueled, you know, certain movies that come out while you're filming fueled your work.
It's so true.
One, it's a release. You know what I'm saying? It's you can forget about what you're doing for a second.
It's true.
Which is the most important thing. To take the pressure off of you. And two, you're excited about your colleagues working and seeing them thrive, and that energy is passed on to you.
Yeah.